From stories around the world to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. A pleasant evening. I'm Dilanjali Ananda.
Hello there, very good evening indeed. I'm Javed Bongzo and we begin with the headlines of tonight's news. Leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Mahinda Rajapaksa takes oaths as the 13th Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, giving foremost prominence to national traditions and rituals. Crisis transpires within several parties of the opposition in dispute of national list nominations. Schools reopen under several stages from tomorrow. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party states that full support will be extended to the future work plan of the President. Operations recommence at the Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport. Amidst COVID-19 hit countries, the highest number of new COVID-19 positive cases detected within 24 hours reported from India. Now for those and other stories in detail. Leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Mahinda Rajapaksa took oaths before President Gotabaya Rajapaksa as the 13th Prime Minister of Sri Lanka at the Kalniya Rajamahaviharaya today. Significantly, he is being sworn in as the Prime Minister for the 4th time. Premier Mahinda Rajapaksa took oaths today subsequent to a remarkable Parliament election victory ever to be obtained under the proportional representation system. The swearing-in ceremony was conducted adhering to health and safety guidelines. The ceremony commenced with the arrival of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at the historic Kalniya Rajamahaviharaya.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
The swearing-in took place before President Gotabaya Rajapaksa amidst the chanting of Setpirit by the Mahasangha.
Mahinda Rajapaksa nama Sri Lanka Prajajantrika Samajwadi Dhanarajye ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව ආරක්ෂා කොට අනුගමනය කරන බවටද ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ දේශය තුළ වෙනම රාජ්‍යයක් පිහිටුවීමට කෙලින්ම අන්‍යාකාරයෙන් වූ ශ්‍රී ලංකාව තුළදී හෝ ඉන්පිටදී අත ආධාර දීම අනුබල දීම අනුග්‍රහය දැක්වීම මුදල් ලෙදවීම ධෛර්යය දීම හෝ දේශනා කිරීම නොකරන බවටද ගෞරව බහුමානී ප්‍රකාශ කොට ප්‍රතිඥා දෙමි. Mahinda Rajapaksa nama Sri Lanka Prajatantrawadi Samajwadi Janaraje Agramati Dure Karya Sah Sri Lanka Prajatantrika Samajwadi Janaraje ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව සහ නීතියට අනුකූලව අවංක යුතු කරන බවටද ශ්‍රී ලංකා ජනරජයට පක්ෂපාත වන බවටද මගේ උපරිම ශක්ති ප්‍රමාණය ශ්‍රී ලංකා ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රික සමාජවාදී ජනරජයේ ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව ආරක්ෂා කොට අනුගමනය කරන බවටද ගෞරව බහුමානී යුක්තව ප්‍රකාශ කොට ප්‍රතිඥා දෙමි.
බුද්ධානුභාවේන සබ්බ ධම්මානුභාවේන සබ්බ සංඝානු බුද්ධ රතනං ධම්ම රතනං සංඝ රතනං තින්නං රතනානං ආනුභාවේන චතුරාසීති සහස්ස කන්දානුභාවේන පිටකත්තයානුභාවේන ජින්න ශාවකානු Sabbete roga sabbete bhaya sabbete antaraya sabbete upaddava sabbete sabbete avamangala vinassantu ayuvaddhako.
Thereafter, the President and the Prime Minister engaged in religious observances at the Kalniya Rajamahaviharaya.
Sati siddhiti mati tejo jaya siddhi mahitti mahagunang aparimita karasya sabbantaraya nivarana samattasya bhagavato arahato සම්බුද්ධස්ස දවත්තෙන් සමහා පුරිස ලක්ඛනානුභාවේන අසීත්‍යානු ලක්ඛනානුභාවේන අට්ඨුත්තර සතමංගල ලක්ඛනානු චබ්බන්නරන්ත්‍යානුභාවේන කේතුමාලානුභාවේන දසපාරමිතානු දස උපපාරමිතානුභාවේන
Mahinda Rajapaksa, after taking oaths as the new Prime Minister of the 9th Parliament, arrived at several viharas and obtained blessings today. Upon arriving at the Paliyagoda Vidyalankara Pirivena, the Premier met with the Pirivenadipati Chancellor at the Kelaniya University and Chief Sanganayaka of the Colombo and Shillong Divisions, Venerable Dr. Velamitiyave Kusaladamathera, and obtains blessings. Thereafter, he met with the Pirvina head of Dhamma Education, Chancellor at the Sabaragamu University, Rajakiya Pandita, Venerable Professor Kumburugamwe Vajirathera, and obtained blessings. The Thera advised the Premier to build the country whilst preserving the ancient heritage of the country. The Thera further stated that the results of the election proved that it is possible to build the country with unity, and added that the Mahasangha is confident that the President and the Premier will fulfill the expectations of the people. Thereafter, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa arrived at the Gangarama Vihara in Colombo and met Venerable Kirinde Assaji and obtained blessings. Delivering a sermon, the Thera stated that it is extremely commendable for the Prime Minister to call on the prelates on the day of the swearing-in ceremony. The Thera stated that after ending 2 wars, the President and the Prime Minister now have another war to be won. The Thera detailed that the first war was against the LTTE terrorists, while the second war was against the coronavirus. The Thera said that the third war is an economic war and wished for strengthening upon the Prime Minister to win this economic war. The Premier was accompanied by Mrs. Shiranti Rajapaksa. Thereafter, Prime Minister Rajapaksa arrived at the Abhayarama Vihara at Narayanpeta. He met with Chief Prelate Venerable Muruttettuwe Anandathera and obtained blessings.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa arrived at the Sunetra Devi Pirivena at Papaliana this evening and engaged in religious observances. The Premier met with Chief Prelate Venerable Professor Mathagoda Abhayathisathera and obtained blessings. The first Malpahan Puja at the newly constructed relic repository at the Sunetra Devi Pirivena was initiated by the Premier with the offering of flowers and the lighting of lamps. In the meantime, several ceremonies were organized island-wide to celebrate the swearing-in of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Mahinda Rajapaksa, enters the records of history as the first Prime Minister to obtain a two-thirds representation in Parliament. At the parliamentary election, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, led by Prime Minister Rajapaksa, polled a majority of over 4 million votes, with a new record in the history of elections in the country. Here is a segment on Premier Mahinda Rajapaksa, who takes oaths as Prime Minister for the fourth time. Mahinda Rajapaksa, who entered politics after his father's demise in 1967, was first elected to Parliament from the Beliyatha electorate in 1970 as the youngest member of Parliament at the time. As a parliamentarian, his contribution was significant during the 1988-89 period, when he stood up against state terrorism that was rampant at the time. He re-entered Parliament in 1989 and was at the forefront in the campaign to end the 17-year UNP rule. His efforts proved fruitful when the People's Alliance, led by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, formed a government in 1994. Then Cabinet Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa successfully oversaw several ministries such as Fisheries and Labour. He has even performed the role of opposition leader in Parliament. He was sworn in as Prime Minister for the first time in 2004. At the 2005 presidential election, then Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was elected as the fifth executive president of the country. After ending the 30-year-long war, he was re-elected as president in the 2010 presidential election.
මිටිකම් සීමා නොත කාලන සැමට සමානව සිතන රජෙක් උස් මිටිකම් සීමා නොත කාලන සැමට සමානව සිතන රජෙක්.
Then President Mahinda Rajapaksa was defeated at the 2015 presidential election. However, he re-entered Parliament to serve the people. Thereby, under his leadership, on the 10th of February 2018, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna emerged victorious at the local government elections. Although Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna was a newly formed political party, it significantly secured power in over 70% of the local government bodies. In January 2019, he assumed the role of opposition leader for the second time and strengthened the party to defeat the then incumbent UNP government. As a result, on the 16th of November 2019, presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, secured victory, obtaining a mandate of 6.9 million votes. Thereafter, in the caretaker government that was formed, Mahinda Rajapaksa was appointed Prime Minister. At the recently concluded parliamentary election, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna secured a landslide victory under the leadership of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Contesting from the Kurunegala district, Premier Rajapaksa obtained 527,364 preferential votes, which is the highest number of preferential votes ever obtained by a candidate at a parliamentary election.
විවර කරනු මැන අපට අහිමි කළ නිදහස් නිවහල් අපේ රටක් නිදහස් නිවහල් අපේ රටක් නිදහස් නිවහල් අපේ රටක් නිදහස් නිවහල් අපේ රටක් නිදහස් නිවහල් අපේ රටක්.
The Ministry of Education states that government schools and government-approved private schools that remain closed due to the spread of the coronavirus will be reopened under several stages from tomorrow. The reopening process will be carried out adhering to health and safety guidelines, while instructions have been given for the number of students attending classes to be decided based upon the number of students at the respective schools. Our regional correspondents state that the disinfection of school premises is underway these days. In addition, schools remain closed from the 4th to the 7th of August, as certain schools were deployed as polling booths and counting centres for the general election, while certain teachers were allocated for election duties. Schools will reopen for all grades under several stages from tomorrow. Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Ranjit Chandrasekhar, stated that it has been planned to conduct classes from grade 1 to grade 13. He explained that in schools that have less than 200 students, classes can be conducted as usual from grade 1 to grade 13, maintaining a 1 meter distance in the seating arrangements of the students. He further stated that, however, for schools that have more than 200 students where it is not possible to maintain the 1 meter distance due to a large number of students in one class, instructions have been given to implement a different method. Ministry Secretary Ranjit Chandrasekhar detailed that when it comes to the primary section, on Monday students of grade 1 and 5 will have classes, while on Tuesday students from grade 2 and 5 will have classes. On Wednesday students of grade 3 and 5 will have their classes, while on Thursdays and Fridays students of grade 4 and 5 will have classes. The Ministry Secretary further detailed that when it comes to the middle school, upper school and advanced level sections, on Monday students of grade 6, 10, 11, 12 and 13 need to attend school, while on Tuesday students of grade 7, 10, 11, 12 and 13 need to attend schools. On Wednesday, students of grades 8, 10, 11, 12 and 13 will have classes, while on Thursdays and Fridays, students of grades 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13 will have classes. Ministry Secretary Chandrasekhar further explained that permission has been granted for schools having more than 200 students to reopen for all classes if such schools have sufficient tutorial staff, sufficient space to position the seating arrangement of students, and if they are in a position to commence academic activities as usual. Instructions in this regard have been provided by the Education Ministry to the provincial education officials and school principals. Explaining the school timing, the Ministry Secretary detailed that for classes from grade 1 to grade 9, classes will be held from 7:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., while classes from grade 10 to grade 13, the school time will be from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. He added that tutorial staff members whose timetables have periods until 3:30 p.m. need to remain in the school until the end of the school day. Parents are discouraged from sending their children to school if they are unwell. Education officials further state that it is recommended for students to bring with them food and water in adequate quantities. Secretary to the Ministry of Education Ranjit Chandrasekhar stated that it is mandatory for students to wear face masks on their way to school and back home. However, it is not mandatory for face masks to be worn within the school premises. He explained that if students face discomfort when wearing the mask, they are allowed to remove it and continue with their lessons. Meanwhile, within this school term and examinations, sporting events and extracurricular activities will not be organized, as special attention will be focused on dedicating more time on studies and learning process during the school term up to the 9th of October. In other stories, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, also known as ASEAN organization, marked its 53rd anniversary yesterday. ASEAN is a regional intergovernmental organization in Southeast Asia, which promotes intergovernmental cooperation and socio-cultural integration among its members and other countries in Asia. On August 8, 1967, the foreign ministers of Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore and Thailand signed a declaration to form one of the most successful intergovernmental organizations in the developing world today. From only 5 Southeast Asian countries at the inception, the organization has doubled in size and has grown to become a family of 10 nations at present. Signifying the many achievements of the region and the Association of the Nations, the virtual official ASEAN Day celebration was held in Jakarta yesterday under the chairmanship of Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Vietnam, Pham Binh Minh. Addressing the summit, the ASEAN chairman emphasized that the organization remains committed to reinforce centrality and unity under one vision, one identity, one community in the years ahead in building a peaceful and prosperous ASEAN community.
The total number of fully recovered COVID-19 patients in the country currently stands at 2,579. This is a percentage of 90.77. The number of patients undergoing further hospitalized treatment stands at 251, and this accounts for 8.83%. Meanwhile, new COVID-19 positive cases have not been reported in the country so far today. The total number of COVID-19 positive cases detected from the cluster around the Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Center for Narcotics Addiction so far is 604, out of which 409 patients have recovered fully. This accounts for 67.71%. The number of patients undergoing further hospitalized treatment in this cluster stands at 195, and this is a percentage of 32.28. As of today, the total number of PCR tests conducted in the country is 171,169, which includes 1,343 PCR tests conducted. Repatriation flights, which were temporarily suspended, recommenced yesterday. Thereby, 2 flights arrived from Dubai and Doha, Qatar this morning, each carrying 418 and 35 migrant Sri Lankans. A flight carrying a group of 401 Sri Lankan returnees from Dubai also arrived at the Mattala airport this evening. They were also subjected to PCR testing at the airport and sent to quarantine. And we continue with more news from home. Internal information sources from within political parties elected to parliament report of a crisis faced by the parties in nominating their respective national list members. Political parties undecided on their national list nominations have still not submitted their lists to the Elections Commission. 3 names have reportedly been proposed for the national list allocation of the Ilangai Tamil Arasu Katchi. They are former Digamadoda District MP K. Kodishwaran, Shashikala Raviraj and Kalai Arsan. Internal sources of the party state that it has been decided to offer the national list slot to defeated Digamadoda District MP K. Kodishwaran. However, it is reported that various divergent views on the decision prevail within the party. Meanwhile, a serious crisis has reportedly cropped up within the Samagi Jana Balawega in finalizing nominations for their 7 national list slots. The list of national list nominees posted on social media by interior sources of the party last Friday has currently been removed. The crisis has reportedly transpired due to an attempt to nominate an individual who is not even a member of the party to the national list. In addition, another crisis has cropped up due to refusing to allocate the previously promised SJB national list slots to the parties led by Palni Digambaram, Mano Ganeshan and Rauf Hakim. These party leaders are of the view that the Samag Jana Balawega mustered at least its current number of seats as it received the minority vote. Thereby, if these constituent parties are not granted their entitled national list allocations under the Samagi Jala Banavega, it is reported that they are focusing on remaining neutral in Parliament. The decision in this regard is expected tomorrow. The Our Power of People Party has reportedly plunged into a serious crisis in nominating a member of its national list slot. A contradiction of opinions amongst Venerable Galaboda Atte Nyanasara Thera and Venerable Athuruliye Ratana Thera has led to the dispute, whilst the General Secretary of the party holds a complete different opinion. Ceremonies are being held throughout the island to welcome Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna candidates who secured victories at the parliamentary election. A ceremony to welcome Galle District highest preferential votes scorer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Dr. Ramesh Patirana, was held in the Akimana area. A ceremony organized to welcome winning candidates Dallas Alha Peruma and Kanchana Vijayasekara was organized in the Valigama town. A ceremony was organized in the Mao area at Ampara to welcome candidate Vimalavira Disanayaka, who entered parliament contesting under the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna from the Ampara district. At Harispattur in Kandy, a welcome ceremony was organized for candidate Tilak Rajapaksa, who has entered parliament from the Kandy district. The ceremony was organized to welcome candidate Vasudevanana Kara in the Udugama area at Ambelipitya yesterday. The welcome ceremony for Galle district candidate Sampath Atukorala was held in the Beddegama town. The ceremony to celebrate the win of Kalatula district Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna candidate Anupa Pascoe was held in the Matugama town yesterday. The welcome ceremony for candidate Gamini Velgoda, who entered parliament from the Ratnapura district, was held in the Balangoda town.
Cargo flights commence operations from the Matala Rajapaksa International Airport after 5 years today. A cargo flight left for the USA this evening. A consignment of cargo weighing around 28 metric tons was due to be transported to the US by an Emirates flight today. The Matala Airport actively contributes to flight operations during the COVID-19 epidemic. The airport contributed to the airport terminal management, operating over 70 flights in the months of June and July, facilitating air transportation for over 2,500 passengers, with several flights, including those of Emirates and Sri Lankan Airlines, touching down at the airport. The Yahapalana government, a few months after assuming power on the 2nd of September 2015, decided to store paddy in the cargo section of the airport amid stiff opposition of the public. Paddy was also stored in the building, which was equipped with X-ray scanners, high-technology fire alarm systems, air conditioning, deep freezer facilities. This building in question is reportedly valued at over 2 billion rupees. During the Yahapalana government, operations at this airport came to a standstill, and the then government did not have plans to resume its operations. Therefore, they had decided to sell it off to a foreign buyer.
Today is a very special day for Matala Rajapaksa International Airport. We have repatriated 401 passengers through Emirates Airlines today. And what's even more important is through the same airline, we are sending 28 tons of Sri Lankan produced manufactured garments to America. This becomes one of the most important days at Matala, simply because this is the first time that Emirates Airlines is actually having an fully fledged operation at Matala Rajapaksa Airport. Airport and Aviation, together with our chairman, we have developed a short-term and a medium-term plan for Matala International Airport. And in the interim, we plan to have dialogues with Sri Lanka Tourism and invite all the passengers to use Matala Rajapaksa International Airport, simply because we are looking ahead of giving many waivers and discounts to all the airlines who are patronizing Sri Lanka currently. In this process, we also look to give waivers in the segments of ground handling, parking and landing charges, and certain other government taxes we are already planning to offer them soon after the airport opening happens.
General Secretary of Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Dayasri Jayasekara, says that they will extend their support to strengthen the future work plan of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The SLFP General Secretary expressed these views after a discussion held at the party headquarters today. The discussion was held between SLFP Chairman, former President Maithripala Sirisena, and candidates elected to Parliament from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. SLFP General Secretary Dayasri Jayasekara stated that they decided to extend 100% support to the President's future program. He further stated that they hope to join hands with the President and the Prime Minister and extend support to the process in Parliament.
And that's it for tonight's news. Do watch us tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night.